Welcome to this Easter Sunday post-game media edition of Talking Hoosier Baseball. Today is Sunday, April 8th, 2023. In a real grinded-out game, the Hoosiers stayed close with stellar defense and finally broke out the bats for a big 8th inning to win the rubber match and the series. Peter Serruto led the team with 4 hits, Bobby Whalen drove in a tying run and the 2 winning runs, plus made a stellar catch to save runs in the first inning. The media met with head coach Jeff Mercer, Serruto, and Whalen following the game.
Coach, we were in the locker room in there. What was that scene like after a win like that?
I would say pretty excited, probably namely me. I just, they've just come a long way in a year, and obviously the way the Iowa series went last year at third place, you don't forget that very quickly, and I've had a lot of people over the last year not let me forget that as much as I may have wanted to forget that. But just to see for them how far they've come in a year, and I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the season, right? Baseball is a silly game, and we may struggle down the stretch. I don't know, but just to watch those guys work throughout the last year, and sometimes you have those weekend series that really stick out in your mind. And obviously, like I've said, Rick Hiller is a great friend. He's an awesome coach. They have a great team. I mean, they're a bear. But I was just really happy for our guys to see their growth over the past year, and we really invested so hard into our pitching staff, and we invested so hard into our defense. And I know we made a couple errors that we don't typically make, but we also made, again, some incredible defensive plays. Bobby Whalen's catch in left center and Devin's catch at the wall, those are game-changing plays from the very beginning. So I think there's a lot of that emotion that probably kind of boils over a little bit. And I'm usually rather stoic, and so I wanted them to know that I was super proud of them, and that I can show emotion too, and that I just happy for them, really happy for them.
This team feels like it has a clutch gene, more like 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 when they made the tournament. Obviously, this is most other than me and Carl probably weren't here at that point. So how big is it, to have the feel more of like, your first year where you're competing for the title, you're in contention for a tourney bid, that this feels like, it did early, your first year rather than the last.
Absolutely. I think being able to play more of a typical season really helps that, right? Where you're playing an early season, you go play at Auburn, you go play at Texas, you play at East Carolina. You have to have those moments. You have to be in the fire. True road games in front of 8,000 people that don't like you, and it hardens you. And then you have to go and get your butt kicked, and then learn to get back up and not make excuses and not say no, not take no for an answer, and it reveals true character. And I would say that we're talented. We're talented enough to be good. And when you go play a really good early season schedule, you're more capable of handling that. And then high character kids, high character people, and they're the ones that have to go out and be able to handle the emotion of the moment. So I think, you're right. The first year or two, my second year, the year we were canceled, whatever we were, 9-5, and win a game at LSU. That was a really tough team, and things kind of got sideways a little bit. But you can see when you have the ability to put a plan together, execute a plan, build a schedule, do the things the right way, have talented kids, you can build toughness, and they have it. And again, I don't know what happens the rest of the way out, but as of today, we have the ability to stay emotionally stable, to stay calm, and to just use all 27 outs. You preach it, we preach it every day. Just play with all 27 outs. I know that we didn't get started the way we wanted to, and that's okay, but you just got to keep going because you just don't know what's going to happen. The first 3 outs and the last 3 outs, they're statistically of the same value. So don't place more or less on any other thing, and you find a way to break through. You just have to find a way to wait people out sometimes. And if you just stay stable throughout the entirety of the game, you hope somebody else makes a mistake. And today we were able to do that.
Peter has started his 7th straight game behind the plate, and then goes 4 for 4 today.
Yeah.
What is he doing right now? What is bringing that success?
Well, he's working his tail off, and he's tough. I coached under Greg Lovelady at Wright State, and Greg caught at Miami, Florida when they won 2 national championships, and we had Sean Murphy, and he really instilled in me that you can't wear a catcher down. You have to run a 2-catcher system, and yet here we are at 7 games in a row, and kind of by necessity right now, but. That's what makes what Pete's doing that even more impressive. We talked before the game today. He came up to me. I talked to a lot of the hitters, the right-handed hitters especially. We were just so passive to off-speed pitches in the middle of the field, and their off-speed pitches are not normal off-speed pitches. They're bore, and so it's like we're getting the bat knocked out of our hand. We have to have more authority to our pull side. And Pete came up to me and he said, "Hey, listen, I think I'm the exact opposite. I'm missing a ton of my pull side. What do you think?" And I said, "What you do really well is you play in the middle of the field, and the pull side's kind of open for you. What's off-speed pitch?" And so he's mature enough to be able to recognize I'm not in that category. I have to be the other. And he did. Bangs a couple base hits to right field, and then he hits off-speed pitches to left. And I guess that would be my compliment to Pete as to why he's having that success, is because he's intelligent, he's adaptable, he's aware. And when you are those things, you give yourself a chance to have success because you can adapt to the game that's happening before you. And to do it where he's got to be tired. He's got to be physically exhausted catching so much. But to just have the wherewithal mentally to keep doing that stuff, I think that's what I take away from it, and that's why he's having, I think, success.
A little bit of a frustration to start with 4 to 5 double plays turned into sort of joy with Bobby's go-ahead hit. He was going crazy at first base. What was going through your mind seeing his reaction?
Well, it was – I tell the guys, sometimes you get baseball. I stole that from Coach Glant. So we hit 3 double plays in the first 4 innings, each one over 100 miles an hour. It's like for crying out loud. Now, the line drive to right center, if the wind's not blowing in 20 miles an hour, I can see why Devin's extended. He just got too far off the bag. But sometimes you just have tough luck, and you hit balls right at people if it's 2 feet either way, and you probably score 4 runs in the first 2 innings, and everyone's jumping up and down. And I'm not kicking myself. Should I have bunted? The way the game started, it was like, we don't need to bunt right now. They hit 4 rockets in the first 5 outs or whatever it was, and I was like, well, this probably isn't going to be a 42 game. And so you go through the course of the game, and the same thing with Bobby I talked about with the right-handed hitters. And we were hitting actually in this cage this morning, and it was just like you're catching everything too deep. Like, when's the last time that you hammered a ball to left field, a fastball, homer it to left field, or double down the line, and play out front with the fastball, and then allow the off-speed to work to the middle of the field, and don't force your whole field's turned to the right field line. And he's such a good kid, and he's so adaptable, kind of just like with Pete, that you watch him go out there today, and it is noticeable. Like, you can see his noticeable change in his approach. Okay, I'm going to make this adjustment today. And all of a sudden, he gets it a little further out, and a little further out. He has some really good foul balls. Bang, base hit to the left. He's like, okay, now I got the contact point. And what's really impressive is the Obermiller kid, that lefty. I mean, that dude's a bear, right? Like 92, 94 from like the 4-hole. And he crossfires a 92-mile fastball into Bobby with 2 strikes. And Carter Matheson did a really good job of that. With 2 strikes, you're on fastball timing away, and then you just have to react to fastballs in. And that's a scary approach, right? It's like, but what about the fastball in? It's like, you just have to do the best you can and trust your drill work. And he did that. He's fastball away timing. He gets a 92-mile fastball in, and he crosses his face firm and bangs it in the 6 hole and 2 RBI. So, again, just being adjustable. Like, baseball is a silly game. You do everything right and you fail. You do everything wrong and you succeed. And so you have to be stable, and then you have to adjust, and you have to be willing to make changes as you go. And that's what Bobby does a great job of. And he's such a good leader that he's able to do it, and then he's able to set the example for everyone else. If your leader is having a tough day or a tough couple of days, and then he doesn't adjust and he pouts, then what's everybody else supposed to do? And they don't take it and apply it to themselves. But when one of your best leaders is also one of your most adjustable and one of your most accountable, then the rest of your team follows. So it has to be locker room led. It has to be led by the guys. And that's why having guys like Bobby make all the difference in the world.
A lot of those qualities you just mentioned are typically guys that are a little bit more veteran, a little bit more seasoned in the program. Bobby's only a sophomore. What does that say kind of about just the mentality, the makeup of this entire team?
Yeah, Bobby is the quintessential guy that you want in the program. You want the program to be about that. And you look at the team, we're 80% of our team are in that have multiple years of eligibility left. Freshmen, sophomores, or third year or redshirt juniors. I'm sorry, and they have eligibility left. So it's exciting to see that the culture never graduates, right? Tradition never graduates, and if you can build that internally. And then when you're really fortunate to have guys like Bobby and Pete and those guys in the program, where those young guys see it, and it's like that becomes the standard, that becomes the expectation, and then it never leaves. When those guys move on to professional baseball or to graduation, that never leaves. And I think that's what I get so excited about is the guys that we have in the program right now are very talented. The guys that we have committed are incredibly talented. But to know that the foundation is set, and again, we can win or we can lose. I don't know what's going to happen down the stretch. It's a crazy game. But I don't have any concerns about the culture and the attitude with the players within and in the locker room. And as a coach, that's a really it's a very safe feeling and a very exciting one.
You talk about needing 6 runs to win. Usually the last few games you haven't gotten that, but you're still winning. So how do you balance basically winning, despite not hitting what you want, but also knowing, you can't win indefinitely with these lower scores?
Well, if we pitch like that, we can't. Well, I think the focal point that we've really tried to institute in the last couple of years, and we talked about, is the ability to pitch and play great defense. Have athletes across the field, have depth where you can play defense late, you can substitute guys, you don't have to abuse guys, you can get them in and out. We need to be interchangeable defensively because the offense ebbs and flows. You look at the last week, I would not want to be a hitter on our team in the last week. Look at the arms that we have faced from Indiana State to this weekend at Iowa. It's like it is a murderer's row of arms. And so sometimes it ebbs and it flows. And that's the thing. But pitching and defense show up every day. And we'll score runs. And we had 11 hits. We had 11 hits and 5 walks. We had 16 base runners at least, or maybe 2 by pitching, probably 16 or 17 or 18 base runners. We just hit into 4 double plays. And that's the way it goes. But if you can pitch and play defense, you have a chance to win. What I get excited about is that we're growing up on the mound. Braden Reisdorf is a perfect example. Wes Burton is a perfect example. How much better have those guys been in the last, today as opposed to a month ago? And if we can keep adding, just like we talked about, if you add one guy a week to the staff, if you add one guy a week to the offense, and now you have the depth to be able to be competitive on the back end of the last game, in the last 3 innings against a team like Iowa that has one of the best pitching staffs in the country, you're able to compete the whole way through because you just keep coaching, keep adding guys, and we'll hit. But if we don't pitch, it doesn't really matter. But we're pitching it really well. We're playing really good defense, and we have a chance to win every game we play when we do that.
We'll take 2 more.
Coach, a very emotional series win for you guys.
Yeah.
Does it mean more coming against a very quality Iowa team that swept you guys last year?
Normally I would say no, but yes, it does. It's just, again, for the guys, right? It was a very disheveled, feeling after that series. We had played so well for the previous month. We had won 4 series in a row, something like that. We were winning our midweeks. It kind of felt like we had our feet underneath us, and we were going. The way that the series fell, where we had to get everybody lined up for the conference tournament, we knew we were going to be exposed, and so I felt just bad for the kids, after that weekend, and then to see them recover and play well in the tournament, and then to see, hey, here's where we are a year to the day, or not to the day, but a year later against the same team. It was emotional for them. It was kind of vindication that all the work and all the time was worth it. And, a little bit of egg on your face, in some of those moments last year, you can wipe some of it off and kind of feel like you've it was all worth it a little bit. And now you have to pick up and go play on Tuesday and make sure you don't have a, hangover from that. And I say that with all of the respect in the world to Iowa. I don't want it to be in any way. Wouldn't matter what team it was. It could have been, any team. That was a tough series to swallow. And they were classy about it. It was just hard internally for us. And so I was just happy for the guys as they did it this weekend.
With a lot of...
Sorry, I'll take both of them.
5 series wins in a row. The past 2 have come after you guys have dropped the opener. What would you sort of attribute to this team refusing to let up?
Well, I've talked a lot about the year that we won the Big Ten in 2019. So we lost 3 or 4 Friday games. So what happens? You have 3 games. Just find a way to win Saturday and then make it a rubber match on Sunday. In the way that we manage our pitching staff right now, if we keep adding guys, we're going to have a chance to win all 3 games. And then we've talked about it. Like, we have developed starting pitching through the depth of the staff and through matchups. And so I think that's what I would attribute that level of success to, in the ability for us to keep doing that. I get a lot of confidence knowing that we can keep doing it this way.
In some of the games that you've struggled with offensively, you've seen it to where you've had a couple guys who have been hitting well, but they tend to be spread out around the lineup. I mean, I guess that's kind of typical because you really don't have one guy that's just head and tails above everybody.
Right.
So kind of just talk about the struggles of trying to get the lineup right against good pitching.
Yeah, it's like a Rubik's Cube. It's like a Rubik's Cube. It's tough. The thing that I've done the last few weeks is really just try to stabilize the lineup in hopes that it helps to stabilize everybody's role to the best of my abilities. Like if you look at who's hitting with runners in scoring position, who's getting on base, and you kind of slot those guys in the right spots. But outside of that, because I hated it as a hitter when it was like, well, I hit third this day and fourth this day and fifth, and I'm all over the place. And so I've tried to stabilize it so you can begin to kind of form roles and my identity. And you're right, it's kind of we're winning through the aggregate, right? We're winning through the whole of it, not necessarily through the individuals. We're just going to have to find it, just keep pushing through. We're just going to have to push through until we can kind of get a couple of those guys cooking a little bit again. I saw some good things today that just the ability to kind of get back to fastball timing and to get fastballs out front. And I go back to this where the group last year had a lot of success offensively, and they were all their first time, so there's no scouting report. And then they had success, and now everyone knows your weaknesses, and you're insecure because they're poking on your weaknesses. And then you get in between, right? So now we got a ton of off-speed pitches, a ton of changeups. Every time I say, hey, it's like an 8% changeup use for this guy, and then it's like 45% changeup use against us. And guys come back in, it's like, well, the scouting report stinks. It's like, I know, well, he didn't know he was going to do that. So I think that kind of throws a little bit of a grenade in guys' brains, and so we just have to reestablish fastball dominant approaches that we can turn around a fastball and get back to what we are. Because right now we're getting pitched like we got pitched a lot of times last year, which is like fastball dominant. And because we're in between, and we reverted to like we were getting a ton of off speed, so now we're off speed, and so we just have to go back to that, and then we should reestablish ourselves and be able to go. And at the same time, when you face a bunch of really good arms in a row, you kind of tip your cap, but also know that it prepares you for the next couple weeks. I wouldn't be shocked at all if we swing it really well the next couple weeks, unless we face, Brody Brecht again, which I hope I never see that guy again in my life. But, I think we'll swing it really well kind of moving forward. After you see that, it hardens you, it makes you better, and you get better through tough stuff, and I think we will.
Just help my team win. That's basically all everyone in the dugout tries to do is win. And when you have a part of it, it's pretty exciting and it's emotional, and you see all your friends going crazy, and it makes you go crazy too. So.
Can you talk a little bit about your catch in the first inning?
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. That was a long time ago. But yeah, he hit that ball well, and I was running back, and Devin was telling me how many steps I have until I have defense. So credit to him for helping me there. And then I got to that last step and jumped and made the catch.
Quick question: is you're one of the veteran teams. You were still never on any of those postseason teams. The 2010s, you came later. Just for the first time, as we were talking to Coach, feels more like those teams where you're in contention for the conference title. You're in contention for a regional. Is one of the more veteran players on this team. How do you lead, even though you've never been, to postseason before, and it's looking like it could happen this year?
We just show up to the field every day, game or not, just ready to get better. And that's all we can control. We can't control what other teams do in the Big Ten. We can only control ourselves. And the Big Ten is really good this year, so that's good for us. It's a really good series. Hopefully open some eyes to show that that Big Ten baseball's back. So yeah, we just have our head down, we're working, and we're trying to get ourselves into that conversation.
You guys had a few struggles early on in the game with runners in scoring position, but later on you guys are able to break through. Was there any sort of change in mindset or mentality at the plate, or was it just kind of persistence breaking through?
I mean, honestly, it was just keep doing the same thing because we were hitting balls hard and they were just going right to them. So that's where you get in trouble when you try to change things when you're hitting the ball well. It's just baseball. Sometimes that happens, and the people that are good stay with what worked, and hopefully it finds a hole. And luckily, late in the game, it found holes.
Heard the muffled celebrations of the clubhouse. What was it like in there?
It was exciting. Big Ten series wins are huge for us, and best friends in the locker room. Sometimes we just go crazy.
Kind of sticking with that, you guys won 5 straight series, 3 in the Big Ten, and now 2 straight after dropping the Friday game. What does that say about the resilience that you guys are able to pick it up after not necessarily starting a series the way you want to?
Yeah, our pitchers just keep us in every single game, and we're gonna figure it out as a hitting group. But all credit to our pitchers; they just stay tough. They trust us to figure it out when we need to, and they've kept us in every single game and gave us a chance to win. Even on Friday, we had a chance to win late, and yeah, all credit to them.
Anything else for Bobby?
Yes, Coach mentioned a little bit about how some teams have had their pitchers change their pitch assortments before you face them, so what you're facing isn't necessarily equivalent to the scouting report that you had. Can you talk a little bit about how you've adjusted to that?
Yeah, it's been tough the past couple of weeks because fastball-heavy pitchers are not fastball-heavy against us, so that's what we start thinking, and they are fastball-heavy. So I think it's just a lot of guessing what their pitching coach is thinking instead of just staying on the fastball and adjusting to everything else, which is what we're all so good at. And we're trying to guess pitches, and it's causing us to be in a hole. So I think late in the games we go back to our original approach, and we're hitting fastballs and we're adjusting everything else. So somehow we just have to get our mind that it's a one-run game in the 8th inning, and we'll be good.
You think that part of that kind of comes around with just having more turns at the plate throughout a game?
Yeah, it does, and just big spots. It locks you in. There's no room for mistakes. So you go back to what you've done your whole life when you have no other choice.
You guys go down 2-1 pretty late. A little bit unfortunate there with the error, and those happened. But what was sort of the message going back into the dugout after that?
The message was, Tyler, we got your back. That was it. Everyone that came in the dugout, they're like, Tyler, we got you. Don't worry about it. You're going to come up in a big spot.
Pete, you've caught 7 straight games now, but you're still finding ways to come through in big moments. How are you, A, doing physically, and then B, what's your mindset like as you keep showing up to the ballpark?
Physically, I'm all good. My mindset's just to help the pitching staff and defense as much as I can, and then do my job offensively and contribute in any way I can.
How big is it that you and Bobby were maybe not the first people you think of who are going to get the clutch hits, yet you both had great days? What does it say about the depth of this team that you know all 9 guys can deliver?
Well, it's awesome. Bobby, somebody I hit with a lot in early work and on off days, and it's great to see him, come through. He's got the clutch gene. We can always rely on him, and kind of just working on things off to the side with Bobby. Seeing it come through in the game is awesome, and really happy for him.
You and Bobby, both with big games today. You guys are also really close to each other in the batting lineup. What was that sort of dynamic during the game? Were you talking amongst each other, feeding off each other's energy?
Yeah, absolutely. My job kind of down the orders, get that lineup flipped over and get on first base any way I can, and then have guys like Glasser and Bobby drive me in, and in the dugout off to the side, he's always contributing any way he can and letting the rest of the lineup know what's coming and what to expect.
During a lot of the game, there was obviously you guys had got hit into a lot of double plays, so got to be a little bit of a downer in that. And then how did you, as a leader of the team, help to kind of refocus and get back and be able to produce a win there at the end?
Sometimes double plays happen. Tibby stung one right at the third baseman. I know some other guys hit the ball hard, kind of right at guys. So some of it's unlucky, and then some of it you got to credit Iowa's pitching staff. They executed really good pitches into kind of that funnel where double plays happen. But you kind of have to stick to your approach and do what you do best and hunt the fastball and make an adjustment to a breaking ball. I think we did a really good job of that. And, we had more success down the end of that game there.
From a catcher's perspective, I know it's a different look when you're in the box versus when you've actually got the mask and you're the one catching, but does that play into necessarily how you read a pitcher a little bit, and does that give you a little bit more success at the plate because of that?
I think it's better to dumb it down sometimes because, like you said, as a catcher, you can kind of look at the tendencies and know what the umpire's calling and kind of guess what the pitcher's going with, but more often than not, it's going to be the opposite pitch in the opposite location. So I kind of try to just stick to my own approach and trust the scouting report that we have, and kind of let that play out.
Can you talk about the different uniforms today? They're like the American flag with reds that are similar in color, but the message in the middle with the flag as numbers is very different.
These are awesome. Anytime we get a chance to wear these, I'm a huge fan of these. I know Craig Yoho's a big fan of this, the USA, but I'm happy to get the series win, especially wearing these.
Anything else?
Similar question that I asked Bobby, but what was it like in the clubhouse after just hearing the noise?
It was awesome. Anytime you can win a series, that's the goal. But especially against a really quality team, it just goes to show how strong the league is, and I think it's really important for us. and especially, you know, on our home turf, our fans really showed out, especially on Easter, which is unbelievable, and we're really grateful for that.
Coach was talking about the growth of the team throughout the past few months to a year. In this game, there was a play at the top of the fifth where you guys could have had a double play, but then ended up with two people on the base. But then at the top of the ninth, it was the opposite, in which you guys were able to convert a very similar play on that. What does that say about the resilience of this team?
You just said it right there. We have a ton of resiliency. We have, you know, a freshman playing an unbelievable second base, and you know we've relied on him a ton. And Philip Glasser's helped him out a ton in the middle infield. They've done an unbelievable job in the middle, and it's my job as an older guy to make sure everybody's kind of in the right spot at the right time, and make sure the younger pitchers feel comfortable in any situation.
Thank you for listening to this post-game media edition of Talking Hoosier Baseball. Next up, the Hoosiers host the Ball State Cardinals at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, April 11th. See you at the BART.